a lot of my friends were like, "Oh man, you sold millions of records. You're not gonna have any problem. Just tell these rappers you want to make beats." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, it's not that easy. Why would they want a beat from like a 37-year-old guitar player in a rock band when they could have, some like 20-year-old kid who's out there with like the next sound? I gotta find how do I compete with someone like that."
Peace, what's going down? It's DJ Payne1 for beatstars.com, in the building, aka Skype, live with Billy Martin. You might know him from the iconic band Good Charlotte.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, and actually at first when I heard you were releasing beats, I thought to myself, Billy Martin makes beats, and it's making more sense to me now as I kind of think about it. But first things first, how long have you been making beats?
I've always been messing with electronic music, even like early Good Charlotte records. I did a lot of programming and keyboards and stuff. But as far as like making beats, Good Charlotte took a break in around 2012. We kind of just went on hiatus for about 4 years. And in that, right around 2012, I thought, okay, well, I don't have a band anymore. And I still want to make music, so let's try to do this whole like beat thing and take it seriously. So probably around 2012 was when I really got serious about making beats.
Okay, so important question now. What are your beat-making weapons of choice?
I use Ableton Live. I love Ableton. Back in the day, I used Pro Tools when I first started demoing, but when I said in 2012, I kind of wanted to start fresh with like a whole new thing. So I thought, let's learn a new program, let's get some new gear, and just try to get inspired. So I picked Ableton, and I use like a Universal Audio Apollo. That's like my interface. I love that. As far as plugins go, I love Native Instruments. I love Output. Both of those companies I think make really, really good sounds.
There did seem to be a lot of respect for hip hop among the original members of Good Charlotte, and I read something about this Beastie Boys origin story. But without getting into that, listening back on some of those records, like the anthem, the intro of the anthem, there's this hip hop beat at the beginning, and then the bridge in Girls and Boys was this quite obviously hip hop beat. And you mentioned that you did some programming. Were you a part of that? And then what made the band add those parts to the song?
Yeah, like the intro to the anthem is something I did. That's like a gated effect on the guitar just to kind of give it that bounce with a little program drum in there. But really, like we grew up in Maryland, like I grew up right in between Baltimore and DC, and hip hop just sort of dominates those cities as far as music goes. I mean, sure, there was a rock scene, we were a part of it, but all the kids I grew up with at school listened to hip hop, all the radio stations were hip hop. That's just sort of part of, I guess, just where we grew up, culture wise. Everybody in the band loves hip hop. And like you said, you listen to the first Good Charlotte record all the way through to the newest one. There's always been influence. You hear it in all the songs, whether it's lyrically or musically. It's always something we've tried to incorporate just because we love it. And I'm just a fan of music in general, so I like what I like and I don't like what I don't like. And so that's the cool part of being in a band, is you kind of got to pull from all these different places and see what comes out.
So during the first couple Good Charlotte releases, were you ever trying to slide beats to rappers you run into on tours or at labels? Was that ever something that you tried to do?
I wasn't confident enough with my beats back then. Back then it was kind of just, we would always have like a really dope producer that we were doing Good Charlotte's records with, so I could take like just a simple program beat or something and say, hey, here's this idea, and the producer would take it and make it sound awesome, and I'd be like, man, I wish I could do that. When we first signed our record deal, I was 17. I was still a senior in high school, so I was young. I wasn't really smart. I knew how to play guitar. That was it. So looking back on it, I think about all these cool opportunities I was at like MTV Awards and festivals and stuff around all these rappers, and thinking, man, if only I knew what I knew now back then, I probably could have had some cool opportunities. But now I kind of missed out on that in the early days, so now I'm trying to make up for it.
So I'm not going to dwell too much on the Good Charlotte projects, but they're significant. I mean, you had some really commercially successful albums. For example, the most successful release, I believe, went 3 times platinum. It might have gone more. But what comes with, a lot of people watching this have no concept of what that means in practical terms. So what comes with having a 3-time platinum album in terms of opportunity, revenue streams, that kind of thing?
Going platinum, I think that's every artist's kind of goal. That it feels really good to have that as part of your history. For me, I really think people always ask me what's your proudest moment, or what's like something that you look back on. And for me, like, it's longevity, because I've seen so many artists come and get that platinum record, and that's it. They hit platinum once, and it's like they peaked, and they're gone. You know, you never see from them again. So for me, I'm thankful that 20 years later, you know, like after that 4-year break of Good Charlotte taking a break, we're back and making new records and touring, and you know, I feel like our numbers are really strong for a band who's been together for a long time. But I think, like, just simply like, when you read a review for a new record, it'll mention this band, you know, has sold 11 million records worldwide or something, and that's a cool number. You know, it's hard to say these days that you sold 11 million records in your career, let alone 1 million. It's hard to go platinum. So revenue stream, sure. You know, back in the day on major labels, it was a little bit easier to make money. Recouping was a big part of it. It was, you know, expensive to make a record. Labels were putting a ton of money into studio time and producers, and you had to recoup. You had to sell enough records to pay the label back before you started making money. But if you go 3 times platinum, you're paying you've recouped, and you're going to make money by then. So that was definitely cool to see money come, because nowadays it's like you make a record just as like free promo to go on tour. Like, I don't even think about revenue from album sales. Sure, like concerts, publishing, you know, stuff like that, you see money from, but actual album sales, like, it's something that I don't even really think about anymore, which is sad to think that's where we're at. But I'm happy to have come to this industry where I've kind of seen how it was, and now figuring out like where we as a band, or me as an artist, sit in today's culture, because it's 2 totally different things.
I think it's interesting too now to compare the game, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago now, where it is a lot more difficult to make money, especially if you're on a major, or if that's your goal to get signed to a major, because majors are looking for the bands and the artists that are already fully produced, already ready. They just have to, you know, stick a battery in their back, and that's it. Minimal investment, minimal development. But there are also a lot more revenue streams available to musicians because of the internet, because of streaming, because of all these new platforms that are emerging. So what are some of the new ones that you're seeing as viable, and especially given the price point difference between, say, like a t-shirt or a band hoodie and a CD? It's a much higher price point. How are you taking advantage of that as you continue to be an active member of this band?
I mean, it's definitely harder to make money. Obviously, cool things like SoundCloud is a cool opportunity for young, up-and-coming artists to have that platform to put your music out, and people are going to hear it, and you can make money from it. I think that's a really cool thing. Like BeatStars, for example, is awesome. I've been trying to do this, you know, producing thing for a couple years, and probably maybe like only like the last 2 years have I thought, okay, I'm going to take this really seriously and figure out how to get placements and how to not just make this a hobby, but make it like a legitimate thing where when Good Charlotte's not on tour and I'm home, you know, with my family, I can keep making music and keep making money. And I started just talking to a lot of other producers, young artists online, figuring out what are they doing. And a lot of my friends were like, oh man, you know, you sold millions of records. You're not going to have any problem. Just tell these rappers you want to make beats. I'm like, yeah, dude, it's not that easy. You know, like, why would they want a beat from like a 37-year-old guitar player in a rock band when they could have, you know, some like 20-year-old kid who's out there with like the next sound making really hot beats, and like, that's the dude I want. So I got to find, how do I compete with someone like that? Where's my niche? Where do I find my place in this? And one of the guys who I came across online who we've been talking with is your boy Kato on the track. And Kato was really cool. Like, hey man, here's what you should do. And started just like giving me the knowledge, like telling me all about, this is 2019 selling beats. This is what you need to know. And he said, go check out BeatStars, set up a profile on there, get yourself in the mix. And I think that's the big thing, is just learn what people are doing, learn what's hot right now, and figure out where you fit in, because I can't have the same mentality of what it was like 10 or 15 years ago when things were where they're at with Good Charlotte, because it's a different day and age. It's a different industry. It's a different genre than what I'm used to. So I do think that the internet it's really powerful, but it's also like the playing field has been leveled. Like, someone at a major label and a kid in his basement making music, like, it's not that far off as far as getting your music out to people.
What are some of your goals for your BeatStars membership?
I mean, right now, like I said, I'm really trying to find like my niche in the hip hop world. Where do I fit? Because there's so much good stuff out there. The talent is insane with I guess just not how easy, but how like accessible laptops and programs and sounds are. Like it's a lot easier to throw together like a decent sounding beat. You got to have an ear for melody. That's definitely something I hope can set me apart. I've been a professional musician for almost 20 years. Like I play guitar, I'm a guitar player. So something I just did recently, I made a guitar loop melody pack. So it's got like 20 guitar loops of just guitar progressions, leads, melodies, just a bunch of different guitar samples that are like looped in different BPMs at different keys. And I'm getting ready to drop that on BeatStar. So that's something I'm really excited about. And just like I said, just kind of thinking, where can I fit into this world? So I'm going to start with guitar and a lot of collabs. That's what I'm doing, a lot of working with other producers, because you learn so much collabing with other guys, just seeing where their head's at, where their mindset's coming from, and they're all just like, man, play guitar, I need guitar, I want guitar stuff. So that's sort of where I'm at right now is just trying to get some stuff out there and see where I fit.
So we've kind of touched on the major label systems a couple times. You've released music through a few major labels, and having navigated the major label landscape quite a bit, what advice would you give to any musician, rapper, producer, songwriter, etc., for successfully navigating these systems?
You definitely got to find someone who believes in you. Like your A&R guy is important. I think we have been pretty lucky, especially early on, finding an A&R guy who believed in our band and wanted to let us make the music that we wanted to make. I think if you walk into a situation and the first thing the label says is, hey, we love what you're doing, but we think it'd be better if you were doing this, or we could see you doing this, and right off the bat that they're telling you that you want to do something that you know is not you, that's probably like a red flag. Like that's not a good situation. You need someone who says, we love your music, we get what you're doing, we want you to keep doing you, and we want to find out how to make you, on a bigger platform. So I think that's really key, is finding someone who you work with, find to make sure you're protected, make sure you have a lawyer, make sure you have a good contract. There's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, when we signed deals back in the day, you signed a record deal. That's it. The record label didn't touch anything from your merch, nothing from your concerts, nothing outside of the album. That was it. And there's so many deals nowadays that the label comes in and they get a piece of every single thing you do. And they're not out on the road, man. It's hard work on the road. You're out there for months at a time. It beats you up. You're putting the time in. You're playing every single night. Your body's worn down. You're meeting fans all the time, and it's part of it. And as musicians, you love that, but I don't think the label has really any right taking any of that money. They're not out there doing the work. So I really think you got to find the right deal, and you got to find the right people who are like a good fit with you.
Good Charlotte recently released a new album through BMG, and BMG is somewhat of a branch off of was it Sony?
Yes.
So they're kind of a major, but they're not technically a major. So how was that different from working with, say, Epic or Capitol Records?
Well, the cool thing with this, like when we were on Epic or Capitol, your A&R guys kind of like coming in the studio often and checking up on stuff and sort of giving their 2 cents on, hey, I've got this vision for this band's record. I want to make sure that the music you're creating like fits within this sort of template that I envision. And sometimes that's great when you have the right A&R guy. Sometimes that can mess with your creativity because they're in there trying to give their input, and that's not what you like. But with this new record situation, we finished the whole record by ourselves, funded it ourselves, recorded it, mixed, mastered, the whole thing was done. And then we took it to labels saying, hey, we've got this record, we want to put it out. The previous record before that, we put out completely independent, just with a distributor, no label whatsoever. And that was a great experience, but you kind of need to push it to the next level. Like the promo that a label can give you is something that you can't really do independently. So we kind of thought, what's the best of both worlds? We do the record our own. We find a label who's willing to put it out and get that label to back it, but there's no creative input from the label. So that was sort of where we went with this record, and I think it's the happiest we've ever been with the whole process, start to finish, for sure.
And that album, Generation RX, has a connection to hip-hop artist Lil Peep. May he rest in peace. How strong is that connection?
Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet Lil Peep. Benji and Joel, the 2 singers in my band, had run into Peep out in L.A., and he was sort of telling them, hey, Good Charlotte was my favorite band growing up. You guys were such a big influence on us. And they were texting me like, hey, man, you got to check out this kid, Lil Peep. He's sick. I think this is like the next wave. So we were actually planning a tour together. We were going to do a Good Charlotte, Lil Peep tour. And, I was thinking like, oh, that's really different for us, like taking a hip-hop act out. But this kid's not really hip-hop, but he is. And, I love Peep. I think we all do. If he was still here, man, level. So we were really excited to see where that would go. And then I swear, like maybe 2 months after that, the news hit that Peep had passed, and we were all just shocked because there was so much promise there, and it was really excited to see what it would have been like to tour together and see what he would have where he would have gone. And so the first thing the guy said was, "Hey, we should cover one of his songs. We should do something as just a tribute for him." And then his mom reached out and said, "Could you guys film it and do a video of it that we could play at his funeral?" And we were on tour at the time, so we had just finished doing the cover before the tour, and then we had a video crew come out for soundcheck one day, and we filmed like a video for it at soundcheck to send to his funeral. So, yeah, man, it's certainly sad. It's awful to hear that stuff and to think what could have happened would have been crazy. But I'm glad that we were able to do something for him.
This is interesting to me. So you're a visual artist as well, and you've designed a lot of Good Charlotte's artwork, and you even published a book, right?
Yeah.
That was Damius McDreary, A Boy in His Back?
Yeah, it's like a children's book that I wrote and illustrated.
Okay, how do you balance all of these creative pursuits? Finding balance with just one thing, making music is and living life and having a family and everything, that's enough. But you're in a band, you're making beats, you've published books, you're an illustrator, you're a graphic designer. How do you do that?
Definitely, it's probably stupid that I try to do all of those things, but I truly love them all. I think when you're an artist, you're creative too. Like there's those moments where like if a day or two goes by and I don't create anything, like I'm grumpy, like I'm not in a good mood because I need to get it out. So for me, it's more of a necessity than anything, because I need to fill both the artistic and musical side of me. I love both. But I kind of stay pretty regimented in my schedule. I mean, I have a wife and 2 kids, so like family time is also key. I mean, I got to spend time with my family and try to find a way to balance it out. But when I go on tour, I don't really party a lot. Like on tour for me, that's kind of like work mode. When I'm home, I can relax and hang out with my family and friends. And when I go out on the road, I usually wake up early. I get up around like 9:30 in the morning, and I spend the first chunk of my day working on illustration jobs. I freelance for like Nickelodeon and for Marvel and stuff like that. So a lot of times those companies will hit me with a job when I'm on tour. So I spend the first chunk of the day working on art jobs, and then later in the day, we'll do sound check for the show, we'll do a meet and greet, we'll do the concert, and then when the concert's over, you kind of like ramped up with energy and adrenaline from the show, and I can't go to sleep. So usually I go on the bus and I get out my music stuff, and then I work on beats for like a couple hours in the evening after the show, and then just get up the next day and do it again. So similar kind of schedule at home, just regiment, make sure there's time for everything. And some days I might just work on music for a couple of days, or some weeks be a couple of days of music, then a couple of days of art. Just kind of, that's the cool thing about freelancing and making beats, is there's no 9 to 5. I don't have to check in and do this at this time every day. It's kind of whichever job comes my way, I just focus on that one and just try to be disciplined about it.
Here's a question I get all the time, and I don't always have a great answer for it. How do you deal with creative block, especially when you're involved in so many different creative pursuits?
I think that's another reason why I do so many things, because I think if you just do one creative outlet over and over again, you're going to hit that block more often. So if I'm stuck on a beat, maybe I put it away and I'm like, all right, I've got a drawing I know that's due. Let me work on this drawing for a little bit. So bouncing between different creative mediums for me is a really great way. But also just inspiration, man. Like I'm obsessed with like what's current and what's new. Like I know a lot of people listen to the same stuff they grew up with and that's it. But I mean, I'm on like Apple Music or Spotify like every Friday, looking what's new, what's hot, like always searching for new stuff and just listening, because I want to hear like where trends are going, what sounds are popular, like what's hot and why is it hot, and researching and stuff. So I think as long as you're just always soaking up new stuff, I think that's the best way for creative block is don't just get stuck in that same rut of listening to the same stuff and doing the same stuff. Like just branch out and try different stuff, and you'll be surprised how often like one little thing in a song or something might hit you with a new idea.
Okay, so speaking of your ideas, how do people browse your online beat catalog? And then also, how do they grab that new guitar sample library that you've created?
Yeah, so I got so BeStars hooked me up with a pro page, which is awesome. That's billymartin.beatstars.com is my pro page, and the guitar pack is going to be going up there next week. and I think I got about maybe 25 beats up there right now. Kind of just sift through some of my favorite stuff. I didn't want to put some older stuff up there, but I'm still digging through my hard drives trying to put some more stuff up on there. But a lot of stuff I had been labeling sort of by like the sound or the vibe I got from it. But again, I'm trying to look and see what everybody else is doing and figure out what's hot right now. And everyone seems to be labeling their beats by what artist they would think sounds good over it. So I kind of went back and relabeled a lot of my beats with different artists who they style. So that's a good way to look for stuff.
I'm glad you brought that up. Because a lot of people think it's the other way around, that producers sit around and just try to copy what someone else is doing rather than kind of envision who would sound good on a track, and then that becomes a problematic conversation. So for you as an accomplished musician, as a producer, do you think it's good to have a vision of an artist or potential artist who you could hear on music that you create?
Yeah, I don't think there's any rules. I think whatever makes you happy and whatever you think works for you is what works for you. Personally, I don't think about that until the beat's done. When I start working on a beat, I just start working on it, and I just whatever sounds cool. Like whatever sounds I'm working or whatever. I'm definitely not like, ooh, I'm gonna make a beat that I think so and so would sound like. But when I'm uploading the songs to BeatStars, I'll play the song and listen to it for a second and think, all right, who could I hear over this, or what does this beat remind me of? But it's definitely not what I'm thinking about while I'm making the beat. But I don't know, man. I think a lot of things are too overlooked, and too many people are pointing fingers at, oh, you can't do this, or you should do this, or there's no rules in music, man. There really isn't, and that's the best part, you know?
So what can we look forward to in 2019 and 2020 from Billy Martin?
It's one of those things with hip hop, you know, you send beats out all the time. I have so many songs that I've thrown out there with guys that I hope are coming out. I've only had a couple, you know, real placements come out. Like I did one for Lil Xan's last record. That was like my first placement. It was a co-produced with my bro Morgoth. He was definitely someone who kind of helped put me onto the scene and got this song going with Lil Xan, and that really sort of kicked it off for me. Getting that placement, I was thinking, okay, I can do this. You know, this was cool. This dude from Dallas, 10K Cash. I don't know if you know 10K.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna crush it, man. He and I just did a song together. I really see big things for him. Couple other like young and up and comers who I'm really into. This dude Cardi Banks from Wisconsin, who we were talking about. I think Cardi's gonna do really well. Another young dude, Lil HBK, another Texas dude. A couple of these young guys I've been talking with, you know, working on sending them beats and trying to put some stuff together with them. I definitely love the idea of trying to find who's next. You know, there's a lot of great guys out there, and I'd love to get beats on some of these big records, but finding who's next is really fun too. I think that's part of it. So in 2019, I just want to flood the market, man. I want to get a bunch of songs out there, and that's why I did BeatStars. Instead of keeping everything exclusive and keeping it to myself and being like, if you can't get in touch with me, you can't get a beat. I just want people to check out my stuff and use the music and just spread the name out. So I figured, with inexpensive leases and stuff like that on BeatStars, it's a great way just to get your music out there, and hopefully 2019 will bring a lot of songs out there with me producing them.
Cool, man. Well, wishing you much continued success in the production world. Appreciate your time, appreciate your knowledge, appreciate your experiences.
No problem, man. I appreciate BeatStars, repping for me like this too, man. And best of luck with everything with you too, man. You've done a lot of really cool things, man. It's an honor to get to talk with you like this too.